I know it's been a while since I've posted, and as the video continues, I'm going to let you guys know why. First off, I just want to say that it feels so good to be back. Creating content is something that I have truly missed. I just missed interacting with you guys, and I just missed, everything that comes with being a content creator. I hope that you all have been encouraged and been living your life every single day to its fullest potential. Okay, so let's just get into it. So from the title, you guys can tell that today's video is going to be a two-parter. I'm going to start off with the good news, and then I'm going to work my way into the not so good news. Okay, so the good news, better yet, the great news is that I am now a certified life coach. So at this point, you might be asking yourself, what is a life coach? Well, a life coach is basically someone that partners with people and encourages them on matters of, like career paths or personal life changes. And you guys, choosing to be a life coach as my career is something that felt so natural to me. And it's something I know that I can do for a fact without it feeling like a job. Me being overwhelmed because I'm feeling like, I'm working a job that I don't want, because this is something that I'm genuinely passionate about. And also, you guys, figuring out what I wanted to do with my life has not been one of the easiest processes. And because I took this step of faith, I just feel so blessed. And I just cannot wait to see how far God takes me on my new career path. So now we're on to part 2 of the video, and it's going to be about how to constructively deal with grief. So before I get started, I just want to say that I'm going to dedicate the month of June to tips on how to constructively deal with grief. I'm probably going to do one video a week, but in each video I'm going to include tips on how you guys can deal with grief and how you guys can move forward past grief in a constructive way. So I'm going to be sharing my personal experiences, dealing with grief, not all of them, but just some of them to give you guys an idea. And here's a little side note. I don't ever come to you guys and give you guys tips on anything that I have not personally, experienced myself, because I feel like if I haven't experienced it, then I couldn't talk to you guys about it, or I couldn't understand it, and I couldn't give you guys tips on, how to deal with it. So as you guys know, if you have been tuned in to my previous videos, that before I get into, any tips, any lessons, I love to start off with some type of Bible verse. And the Bible verse is, usually related to the things that I'm going to talk about throughout the video. So today's Bible verse comes from Matthew 5:4, and it reads, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted." So before I get into the tips, I'm going to give you all a little story time so that you guys can have a little glimpse into my life and some of my experiences with grief. So when I was about 13 years old, I lost my mom to gun violence. And being so young at the time, I didn't know how to, process my emotions and deal with everything that I was going through, mentally with her dying, or actually with her being killed. But during my time of mourning, and just trying to figure out my emotions, my grandma, she got me involved into church. And I became involved in the choir. Also, I became a part of the praise dance team. And as I got a little older and as time went on, I became one of the leaders over the youth Sunday school. And being involved in constructive things like that pulled my mind away from the tragedy at hand, and I was able to, kind of not forget, because you won't ever forget, but I was able to move forward with my life. So that was one of the first major losses that I experienced. Okay, so about 6 years ago, I lost the grandma that raised me, after my mom was killed. And during that time, I was in a different headspace. I wasn't as active in church as I used to be. So I didn't really know or how to properly process and deal with her death. And that led to me being, somewhat depressed and kind of standoffish from everyone that was around me. And I also began to compress my emotions because I didn't want anyone to know how I was truly feeling on the inside. And when you think about it, I was kind of being prideful because I didn't want to feel like I was weak, and I didn't want anyone to see that I was so vulnerable. And also, I felt like there was nothing that anyone could say to me to help change my situation. But as I, continued to go through the motions, I started to read my Bible more, just basically to get an understanding of why I was feeling the way I was feeling, or why I was going through the things that I was going through. I also started to watch sermons on YouTube from Bishop T.D. Jakes. I began to listen to podcasts from Joel Osteen or podcasts from Joyce Myers, because while I was reading my Bible, I learned from I think it's Proverbs 3:13. Blessed is the one who finds wisdom and the one who gets understanding. And that is one of the reasons that I began to seek counsel from people who was wiser than me. And just from their guidance, and also through reading my word, I began to feel comforted, and I began to have peace in a situation that felt like I was supposed to have no peace at all. Because basically I had learned how to constructively deal with and process the grief and all the things that I was experiencing at that time. So eventually I got to the point where I was able to open up to my family and to my friends about the things that I was experiencing. And surprisingly, me opening up to them kind of helped them cope with some of the things that they were going through also. Okay, so this is a continuation of my story time, and this is something that happened recently, and this is actually one of the reasons why I pulled away from YouTube. And it's because recently I lost my dad. So that was my last earthly parent. And honestly, you guys, this is still something that is not easy to talk about because he died around the end of March. But I'm sharing this with you guys to say the coping mechanisms that I used during previous losses, I was able to apply to my most current loss. Now, I'm not going to lie to you guys and say that dealing with grief or dealing with loss is something that's easy to get past. But I am here to tell you guys that it's something that's doable. It's something that you all can do once you realize that loss or grief or things of that nature are a natural part of life. So if you have made it this far in the video, I just want to say thank you for riding it out with me. If you haven't already subscribed, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below. So at this point, I'm about to drop some gems, and I'm only going to do 3 tips since it's a series of videos on how to deal with grief. In this video, I'm only going to give you guys 3 constructive ways to deal with grief. So of course we all know that we will all experience some type of grief or some type of loss at one point or another in our life, whether it being loss of job or loss of a friendship or loss of a loved one. It's something that we're all going to go through. So basically I want you guys to know that you're not alone. And I'm here to try to make that transition of you, moving forward with your life a little bit more bearable. And not only that, I just want you all to know that we all go through similar situations and that you have a comforter, which is God. And all you have to do is seek him out, during the hard times in your life. Okay, so I probably kind of been long-winded, but here's tip number 1. Give yourself time to grieve, because there is no set time on how long you should deal with grief. I can recall a time where I had lost a friendship, and I was trying to move on, and I was talking to someone, and they was like, well, you're not over that yet. And I kind of felt offended, because it's like, how can you dictate how long I should process this situation, or how long it should take me to get past this situation? And I personally stopped talking to that person, because I just didn't want any of those negative vibes around me, because it might take you 1 or 2 weeks to get past a situation, but it might take someone else 1 or 2 years. It just all depends on how you process that grief, or also how emotionally invested you was in that particular situation. But I said all that to tell you guys, never let anyone tell you how fast you should get past a situation. But tip number 1 leads us directly into tip number 2, which is don't wallow in your sorrows. Of course, like I told you guys earlier, give yourself time to grieve, but constantly dwelling on, the situation at hand, or constantly dwelling on your loss, or what, in whatever case it may be, will not help you to get over it. Okay, so this tip, it flows directly into tip number 3, which is find something that helps stimulate your mind. If you're not occupying your mind with things that are constructive, then you're giving your mind time to wonder about this, or time to wonder, about that, or time to just dwell on things that might not even ever happen. I said all this to say to, get a hobby, or get a second job, or start to bake, or start to knit, something that is constructive. And by constructive, I don't want to really go into details, but you guys should know what I mean when I put emphasis on something that is constructive. By constructive, I mean something that is going to positively help you guys cope and positively move forward in a way that you all can grow. So that is all for today, you guys. I hope that something that I share with you guys is something that can help you in some sort of way. If you all like my content and want to see more of it, don't forget to like, comment, and also subscribe. And tune in next Wednesday for part 2 for more tips on how to constructively deal with grief. I'll see you guys then.